So we're gonna get started on beams today. If you caught the last video, you know we got all of our material prepped right here, everything mitered with that 22-foot long track saw, and then we ripped everything to right around 8 inches. Everything, actually exactly 8 inches. So we've got the first one in. This one was the one that did not have a seam on it. So we're like, hey, we'll start with that one first, kind of get warmed up. And we got the 2 sides on. But our goal today is to see how many of these side pieces we can get in. We'll see how long this takes. Definitely gonna be a multi-day process. So we've got about 3/8 or so gap. That won't be an issue at all because remember, all in between these is gonna be that 3/4 inch Windsor 1 tongue and groove. That is one of the reasons we wanted to get these beams in first before we did the tongue and groove over the whole ceiling, because now we don't have to fight with scribing these beams. It'll just be a nice clean look. And obviously we're gonna have to shoot into our blockings right here, but that just is what it is, and we're gonna have to fill that in with sawdust and glue. So we got started on this, and honestly this is one of the most intimidating projects I think I've ever tackled, doing these white oak beams with a seam and that grain match. It was just really intimidating because it's one of those things that can look really bad if it's not executed properly. But as we got these first 2 pieces on, we really figured it out and did a pinch fit. I'll show you guys this in detail later. But as far as up to this point, I think this is gonna look really good. All right guys, so we have 3 of our seams in right now. If you remember several videos back, we had them resaw this stuff. It was basically 4/4 material. We had them cut it right in half. And then when you open up that grain, you get a match. It's called a book match. So we've got 3 over there. I'll show them to you. But we'll kind of walk you through this one here. And we're putting all of our seams over on that side because as you come up the stairs right here, you definitely don't want to see, a line of seams. They're going to be less visible over there on the high ceiling. So this piece right here is just an offcut of our material, severely cupped, but it's cut straight on both sides. So when we bring this over, we get to see, I'm calling that good. I'm calling that a straight cut on the track saw because I don't have much of any of a gap here. They can't be filled in. And the crazy thing is, see all this crappy paint pill and mixed up texture? I'm gonna have to texture right next to all this anyways and repair a bunch of this stuff. Nothing on the ceiling because of course we have our tongue and groove that'll take care of this junk. But all of this, I'm gonna have to come and do that. So now that we know this one is a straight cut, we do have to check on the other side. But since we have a seam over there, we could just check it when we get over there. So what we've been doing is we'll cut like 1 inch off this one and 1 inch off this one. So whatever we cut off this first long one, could be 3/4, 1/2 inch, 1 inch. We have to take that same amount off this one because whenever the grain comes back, they have to move equidistant. So you could take off 5 inches over this, just boom, cut it there, and 5 inches here. Because it's a book match, they're just gonna join back up. So like I said, we've been doing 1 inch. We'll just keep it simple. And you can see it's much better. I don't know where that grain pattern disappeared to. That's a little tricky. Well, here's another random one from another board. Look at that. That's bad. Look at the color difference immediately. Actually, the grain isn't like super off. It's definitely off for sure. It could be much worse, but the color is insane. Full 16 here going in on this side. So we're simply gonna push it up to the ceiling as high as we can. And we left ourselves like 1/4 inch between the bottom of our blocking and the heel of our miter there, because if there's any variance in the ceiling, we didn't want to have to fight with that. Then we usually shoot it like 4 or 5 foot away from the seam so we can have this kind of flexible for when we do the pinch fit. But there's the install of that. We've got our short piece here And then essentially what we're doing with this being flopping around still, that gives us the ability to pull it out and then pinch them in. So the key here for me, I don't have glue on it, I'm just doing this as a dry fit first. But the key for me is to try this and see how tight I can get it like that. That looks pretty sweet right there. This will all be sanded, so the whole beam will be sanded and I can sand that flush. That is pretty dang smooth. Good on my miter, it's another important thing. And the grain matching color is good, which I've been talking about this whole time. We're good over there, flush against that wall. So I think it's time to put the glue on. Trying to eliminate the most squeeze out that I can. So I'm just kind of putting it on that back edge, and it's still going to push out through the front though. Yeah, you can see it's still squeezed out. There's so much pressure there. I can get that top a little bit better. It's flush, miters are lined up. They're all coming out really good like that. Especially from like 20 foot down, it looks even better. Looks good for my house, right? Look at that one. That one looks really good. I'll sand that glue line out, that joint line. And just the grain, it just looks continuous. It looks good. So that's how we're doing these. We got 4 more to do, and I'll show you guys at the end the update of all these sides on. I think even seeing the sides, it's gonna be a game changer. And even with the sides on, while they're acclimating and I'm trying to get those cups out, we can start tongue and groove. We could put it in between. It's gonna go from board to board. That's not gonna affect us capping the bottom, so that can start. I don't know if we're going to, but it could, in theory. So we're gonna keep moving along with this stuff. So we just continued with this same process for the rest of the install of these side pieces, and it went extremely well. Like anything in carpentry, these situations always remind me, hey, if you got a technique, if you got a system, you got all the right tools, you can really make some things happen. So the next part of this that's really intimidating is the double miter bottom piece that's going to cap the beam off and really make it look like a real beam, but we will get into that in the next video. Well, I am shocked that we actually got all of our side pieces in one day. I was intimidated by all those seams and the joints and the book matching, but overall, it actually went really smooth. I mean, just this right here alone on this giant ceiling is a huge difference. Can you imagine the big 1x8 tongue and groove that we got out there in the garage? Oh man, that's gonna be glorious. It's gonna clean all this junk up on the ceiling, and it's gonna hide our gap right there. This is gonna be awesome.